This is Nick Webb. I am hosting today's Chaikin PowerFeed Daily Market Digest, stepping in for Dan Russo. Today will be my last day. Dan's back tomorrow, so I'm going to miss you guys. But it was an interesting day again in the market yesterday, so a lot to cover, a lot to get through. So let's just get right to it. So a couple things that were interesting. First, the housing starts plunged. And if you listen to Mark Chaikin, one of the things that he keeps track of is housing starts. If housing starts really starts to deteriorate, then he's more concerned of a market correction or a bear market. There haven't been too many bear markets without the housing starts market going down the tubes first. So this is only the first one of, you'd have to see 2 or 3 reports like this in a row. But with lumber prices going up and mortgage rates going up, this is definitely something to keep an eye on. Second thing, inventories in the U.S. built at a historic level. So oil prices really fell again. This is the 4th day in a row that that's happened. It's been a pretty sizable retrenchment at this point. And what was interesting about the inventories announcement is people were forecasting a drop. Instead, it was a massive increase in the inventory. So again, something to keep an eye on. Looks like oil prices are beginning a downward march. The Saudis are producing more. Iran is finding ways to export its oil even through these sanctions. And Russia has begun to up their game. And of course, U.S. with all of their fracking and their exploration is increasing their production. So what literally was 2 weeks ago an oil price short or an oil shortage now seems like it's going into the other direction. The market continues to march upward. This really is a earnings-led market at this point, but what's nice is this, it closed at the highest level in 6 months. So, again, another solid day in the market. It confirmed the 2,800 breakthrough. So we're going to have to reset what, another resistance level is. But certainly it's now looking like it's a very solid market with these earnings. One exception to that was American Express. Absolutely did not have a great earnings report, and they've been hit hard in after hours. Jerome Powell was back on the Hill yesterday, and again, the highlight there was the trade risks to the economy. So again, that came up a number of times in questions. It's interesting. So the one 2 days ago was at the Senate. This one was at the House, where congressmen with specific districts were really getting in and trying to get him to elaborate on how much risk there is in this trade. So again, I think that we're through that now. And so the Fed is going to do what the Fed's going to do, which is gradually raise interest rates. And he was very clear about that. So what's good is there really is no uncertainty about the Fed moves. Overnight, the futures market are pointing to a challenging open. So we'll see where that goes today. Here again, that chart that shows that the market has gone through the 2,800 level and pretty convincingly at this point. So definitely confirms the breakthrough. And again, we talked about it. It's earnings season. It's been a great earnings season so far, and earnings are driving the market right now. And you can see that yesterday's close was the highest close we've had since all the way back in January. So it's definitely beginning to rebound. And if you look at the long-term trend line, that blue line, you can see it's really had some, it's been this continual upward movement. You have to factor out some of the noise that's been going on. Definitely there's more volatility in the market this year than there was last year. But last year was incredibly unusual in terms of how little volatility there was. So this is a more normal market where you do get downdrafts and you do get some really negative days, but net, this is a market that's trending upward and doing so in a very strong fashion. So again, every system looks good. You know, you can even see that money flow is, I was getting a little concerned about it a week ago. All of a sudden it's now turned around. Institutions seem to be coming back into the market. Just a quick note on Chaikin money flow. It's actually a proxy for whether or not institutions are buying a particular stock or a particular security in the market. And it was devised by Mark Chaikin 40 years ago. You can see in this case, it's holding on pretty steadily. So we talked about it. Pretty much all the indexes were up with the exception of the NASDAQ. So they had a little issue. Small caps was right there along with the S&P 500. So everything was going great. If you take a look, the big winner from an industry perspective was financials. They were up almost, well, over 1.5%. So they've been having a great earnings season, a lot of big reports coming out, all of them favorable for financials in the last couple days, and the market's sitting up and taking notice. So again, good day in the market, solid, pretty much all around. So this is algorithmically derived, and you know, I'm looking at this stock and I'm saying, I'm not sure I'm agreeing with Chaikin Analytics on this one. So chalk this up as this one is had a good day yesterday. It's very bullish, mainly because of the financials and the experts. But to me, I'm concerned that earnings are sort of sitting there in the middle. It's also in the oil market, which, as you heard, oil prices are heading down. So I would look at this one very, very cautiously. I think the other ones that we've done this week have been far more interesting with a lot more on the upside. So, you know, I just have to talk about it because that's what was derived, but I'm not a buyer in PBF right now. So where have the sectors gone in the last 5 days? Well, we already talked about financials. They had a huge day yesterday. Industrials is one that you're going to start hearing more about as more of the industrials start reporting. The first one in the list was yesterday when Textron came out, and they came out strong. So, you know, it looks like industrials will have almost as good a run as financials in this area. Technology, we're going to hear more about it. IBM reported last night, overnight. Market is sort of mixed but positive on IBM. There were some things in the report they didn't like, but net they think it's more positive than negative in the overnight market. But as more technology stocks report, it'll be interesting. They have a very high bar to hit this quarter in terms of the estimates. Technology estimates have really skyrocketed, you know, whether you look at it quarter to quarter or year over year. So it's a challenging quarter in terms of that. So far, they've been doing very well. Healthcare has been another big winner in this. And you can see down at the bottom, utilities and energy have been hit. So moving on to our industry focus of the day. Now, what's interesting about that is literally in the last couple days, there have been some earnings reports that have turned transportation services around. But you can see right now, it is weighted to the downside. That Chaikin power bar tells you how many stocks are bullish versus how many are bearish versus how many are neutral. So there's 22 neutral, that's in the middle. There's 9 bullish or very bullish stocks, but there are 12 bearish stocks, so that it's sort of weighted to the downside. You can see it's underperformed. So it's been, you know, a little bit not up to the level of the S&P 500, and its power bar ratio is weak right now. But keep an eye on it because I think we're about to see a turnaround in the transportation services stocks. You can see we've highlighted 3 sort of the worst stocks in the industry as rated by the Chaikin Power Gauge rating. So, you know, obviously Southwest Air is one that's there. And again, I think they were being, as energy prices, went up. I mean, oil literally went from high 20s up to 70, 80 in a period of 6 to 8 months. Now that it's coming back down, Southwest Air and the other airline stocks are perhaps going to recover a little bit. They actually move every single time opposite to the price of energy or price of oil. So interesting industry to focus on. I think it's at a tipping point right now. We'll have to see for more confirmation. So update of what happened yesterday. Textron, very strong. Great earnings report. This was the first industrial, as I said, that really was a benchmark. Morgan Stanley had a massive beat. So again, the financial stocks, you can look further on down. Northern Trust did as well. So again, the financial stocks are earning their keep these days. So the other thing to just pull away from this thing is that these, just like yesterday, the beats are not by a penny or two. There are real beats. Morgan Stanley, 22 cents, almost 15% above the earnings estimate. So these are stocks that are really strong and really, they had a great quarter, just no other way to say it. So keep an eye on it. If earnings beats keep coming in with these big numbers in terms of the beat, then that's going to do very well for the market. Today, it begins to happen in earnest. There's a lot more activity in the earnings market. A lot of things happening in the pre-market. Another big bank, BBT, is reporting. BK, Burger King, KeyBank is going to report. Keep your eye on ADS because they had a major drop earlier in the week when they reported that their credit portfolio was beginning to deteriorate. It'll be interesting to see how they report. So keep your eye on it because if they have a good earnings report and their price has gone down by about 12%, that could be an undervalued stock. If you look on the other side, in terms of after the close, one to keep your eye on is Microsoft. That's one that's going to really come out and show a direction for software services. So it's going to be interesting. As we progress into earnings season, you're going to see these displays get fuller and fuller of companies. Today is a really big day, so market will be moved based on what happens with these earnings reports. So keep your eye on them. A lot of banks, software companies, continued transportation companies are all reporting. PPG is coming out. So this is one, Philip Morris, which we've got as a bearish stock, is reporting today. That's one that could, if it doesn't report solid earnings, it's definitely going to get hit. So all of these are very, very interesting. Keep your eye on it. Just talking quickly on the gainers and losers, you can see that yesterday's gainers were the ones that came out with big earnings reports. Obviously, UAL, CSX. That's the transportation services area. So those two areas, those two companies reported big earnings. And so, like I said, I think there's more in transportation services than people let on. Berkshire Hathaway, interesting story. They're basically throwing in the towel and going to buy back their stock, which they've never done before because they always wanted to invest it because they're such good investors. And let's just say Clorox did not clean up yesterday, and so they had a downgrade. I think it was Goldman Sachs turned them into a sell, which is very, very notable. And Twitter, Macquarie downgraded them, so that's why they're going. But going to a sell is a nasty proposition. So coming to the end of my time, just want to put in a pitch. Chaikin Analytics, PowerFeed TV. Sign up for it. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.